Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of NFI Hammer. In this episode I'm going to build, paint and present a Technomancer. So I didn't realize it, but an earlier issue of this Imperium magazine, issue 18, comes with one of these, and I noticed that my local store that I ordered these from actually had one available. So I picked it up for the $20 because I think this model costs around $55 if you buy it individually from Games Workshop. So this model really stood out to me because it was this idea of like a Necron overlord being fused with a scarab beetle with a flying cape, and it just seemed like a pretty cool idea. Plus the model I feel looks very dynamic, like because he's kind of half flying through the air. And every other model I've kind of painted and built at this point of my 7-week hobby career has been quite stationary and quite static. So this model really seemed awesome to me. You can see here I'm gluing the head of the spider, but the legs I thought were antenna, so I put them the other way. And it was funny because I was laughing at myself, like how Games Workshop called this a spider, but it comes with 6 legs and 2 antennae, and that's not a spider because it needs 8 legs. And it wasn't until days later it hit me with a wave of realization that I had glued the 2 legs as antenna instead. So that was really embarrassing, and it took a bit of fixing. So you can definitely make lots of mistakes. Another mistake I made was I cut off the thumb of the actual Technomancer. I think it was maybe when I was cutting it free from the sprue, or maybe I was just cleaning it up. So his thumb was completely severed. So I got a little bit of leftover plastic from somewhere else that was kind of thumb shaped, and I just glued it back on. But keep an eye out for it. You can see if you can notice that I tried to do a really good job of covering it up with paint and stuff, so hopefully you don't notice. So they were the 2 big mistakes I did in this video. But that's, I'm learning. 7 weeks in, you're bound to make mistakes. So here I'm using my black primer that I got from Bunnings. You can see here, it's about $15. I do find that the black is very dark and requires like a lot of coats on it. But the white seems too bright and plasticky, so some kind commenter suggested to use a grey paint, so I think in my next video I'll give that a go. So here's the finished product. So I'm going to start off with the gold colour. Normally I start off with the brass, but I just thought, for something different. And Artemis here wants to give his approval, so he's giving it a good sniff, and he wants some attention, so I had to stop painting and give him some. So now that he's appeased, I can start the gold paint. So yeah, you can see here the black primer is so dark that the black shines through the gold. So I had to put a lot of different coats. And as well, if you've watched my Overlord video, his cape fell off. So I was able to easily paint the underside, whereas on here unfortunately it all stuck together, so I had to try and get my paintbrush in there and get the underside. And then I paint the sporran as well, and yeah, so far so good. There's also the, I don't know what you call that, kind of the crest or his helmet is also gold. So this guy actually had quite a lot of decorative things like an Overlord. And yeah, I thought he was pretty cool already, taking shape with the black and gold is kind of a very bold color scheme. And then the next color was brass. So this is what I usually start with, and I find this is almost the most boring color. I think you can buy this color in a spray paint, so you can kind of just spray paint the whole Necron warrior this color, and I'm tempted to do that because yeah, this is a very tedious part that I don't find very exciting anymore. I think after doing 10 Necron Warriors and all that, and then another 10 and an Overlord and a Royal Warden, the brass just is not fun. And then, yeah, with the black undercoat, it takes a couple of goes before it kind of applies enough. to kind of really stand out. So yeah, definitely something I'm looking for ideas. Any suggestions that you have, feel free to leave a comment below. And then the next color was Runefang Steel. So this is like a very silvery silver, if that's an adjective. So I'm just putting that in the shoulder pads, on his face. And I still had a lot of paint on my brush, so I kind of just put it in a few areas that I was planning on painting green later, such as his orbs on his back. So this is kind of what it's looking like already, so it's already kind of taking shape. I've put a couple of extra coats of the brass, as I said before, and you can see the head here. I have completely detached it, so I kind of just snapped the head off the spider because I was so embarrassed that I'd put them as antennas instead of legs. So I'll have to glue that back on. And then I'm just using some of my Leadbelcher here just to paint some of the silver on the legs. I usually use this for like the Necron's wrist and ankle, kind of any kind of piston bone. And I'm also trying to paint the edges of the staff as well as some of the segments of the staff just to kind of keep it interesting. So this is what it's up to now. So it's kind of coming together pretty well. Definitely really enjoying the aesthetics of this model. You can see the spider's head still just stuck there on the blue tack. So I've got this bright green Mr. Hobby paint that is kind of weird texture to it, but I think that it kind of looks interesting on these kind of crystals that are kind of shooting out of the ground, because it's more of a dark emerald green than like a Tesseract glow green. So I'm just kind of applying that to these gems, I guess. And then in the staff as well, there's some gems here. So I'm just trying to use this emerald color. I actually later, like my idea was that the dark green and the light green will kind of complement each other. But I think in the end it just ended up being too green. So this time I'm applying the spider's head the correct way around. So the two little antennae are actually feet. So it was a bit awkward to kind of glue it back on. I think in hindsight I would have got a little bit of metal and kind of pushed it through to kind of help it stick, but yeah, super glue ended up working. So this is a new hobby paint I'm going to use on my next model. So it's a metallic blue-green. So I need this color for my next week's model, but I thought I'd give it an early tryout here, and I'm putting it in the gemstone of the staff. And because of the black undercoat, it does take a couple of goes to apply. But I actually really like this color. I feel like it kind of gives it a shininess and a different contrast with the green that I actually go back and paint over the dark emerald green in the staff in this color because I like it so much. But I still leave the gems shooting out of the ground green. So now I'm just putting a base coat of Corax White because the black primer has bugged me so much until this point. So I've decided that I'm just going to put this, put it on the rocks just to help stand them out. But I put it over the blackness in the stuff. Then I'm going to use green on later, just so that I don't have to apply so many different coats to kind of cut through. I should have really done this earlier, I think. And then, yeah, because of the dynasty, I paint the white on his head as well. So I picked this up at the Games Workshop store underneath my office. So this is the Moot Green. So everyone keeps telling me in the comments to not use the Tesseract Glow and to use this one instead because the other one's a technical paint. So I gave it a go, and yeah, it was a lot easier to apply than the Tesseract Glow. Don't know if it's got the exact same color. I think I'm just very used to the other color, so it's going to take me a bit of getting used to. But I'm just applying it here, and then I'm applying it in the little orb, in the spider, and the orb in the eyes, and then also his back and his belt. So quite a lot of different places I ended up using it. But yeah, and then I'm just putting another second coat on. But yeah, it's definitely a lot easier than the Tesseract Glow, but I don't know if the color's exactly right. So this is what it's looking like. So it's kind of coming together already pretty quickly. So I think I'm getting a lot more efficient at doing this. And then I realized I wanted some Mephiston Red. I realized in my other videos I call it Mephisto Red because I've watched a lot of Marvel WandaVision. So I'm just applying the red kind of to give some gemstone looks, because I'm realizing he's very kind of two-toned, I guess, between, you know, the bronze and the green. So I thought some red highlights in these kind of gemmed areas might help kind of give it a bit of life, kind of help it pop a little bit. But yeah, it's kind of a bit tricky getting them into like the little dots. But I kind of managed to half do it, and then later you'll see I'll kind of touch it up with gold again. But I just think it adds a bit of colour. So I'm using Agrax Earthshade, which is a brown shade, and I'm just applying this over all of the brass areas. You can see when I put it on here, I have way too much on my brush, like tons. So I spend the rest of the time trying to move it from where I started into everywhere else on the model. And I'm just trying to get it really into the cracks, just to kind of make those cracks darker and kind of give it a bit of dimension. You can see here as well the thumb that I talked about earlier that I cut off. Don't know if you can notice it because it's moving so fast, but I think it kind of looks okay. So yeah, I'm just applying it, trying to fill in those rib cages to give it a bit of depth, and then some of the cracks and crevices on the cape. And then I switched to my Nuln Oil. So this is just like a pure black shade rather than a brown shade. And I put that over everywhere else. So I put it on the Moot Green weapon. Help me out in the comments below. Is that the right thing to do? I was trying to make the cracks look darker. So, you know, there's a lot of texture. So Abaddon Black is just touching up anywhere. I managed to put paint everywhere on the spine. So I'm just kind of going through and just fixing up any mistake that I've made. I'm also colouring in like the joints to be black, just so that it's not all like just silver. So, and then there's some extra paint that I got on the belly of the spider. So I'm just kind of touching things up pretty quickly. I'm definitely getting a lot quicker at this sort of touch-up work. So yeah, it's kind of looking all good. And then yeah, as I mentioned before, the red kind of went a bit in the wrong spot. So I'm just using a bit of gold, and I'm trying to highlight the sigils gold as well. But for some reason, I think I'm using the wrong brush. I'm not really applying the gold to just the risen area, but I ended up applying it to the base. So I just kind of went with it. But if anyone's got any tips about how to kind of only apply it to the top, that would be good. And then yeah, back to Moot Green again, just trying to, this is my attempt at edge highlighting, so I've never really attempted it before, so I'm just trying to go over the edges of the weapon to kind of give them a bit of a lighter color, but I don't know if I'm doing it right. But it kind of looked alright in the end, so I just rolled with it. And then yeah, I forgot about the bottom part as well. But yeah, I really like the blue-green metallic aqua kind of turquoise paint. I think it makes it look kind of cool in the weapon. And yeah, just kind of colouring this in to kind of make these greens a bit brighter. I don't know why the spider has a second eye on the front. But yeah, I'm colouring in its core in the middle and the underside. But yeah, I think it just kind of helps, you know, pop. So this is the final product. It's definitely my favourite model so far. I've had a lot of fun putting it together this week. I think there's a lot of different elements going on, and I think that it's kind of dynamic, how it's kind of just shooting through the air. If you like this video and you want to see more, let me know in the comments what you'd like to see me try and attempt next. Also, did you know that 90% of the people that watch this video aren't subscribed? So if you're not subscribed, please think about doing it. It really helps me out, and it knows that I'm on the right track. Everybody, thanks for watching this video. The community's been super lovely and nice, and yeah, I'm just happy to be part of it. Thanks for watching. Bye.